Okay, so this is a step-by-step writing guide. So basically, it will be a continuation of the step-by-step writing clinic that happened last week with my colleague Kieran. I will be hosting these every Monday at the same time. So please tell anyone else to join in that could benefit from these classes. Okay. Thank you for those who have just joined us. Like I've said, I'm Christine, part of the English support team at the Manchester campus. So, I have a few objectives that I'd like us to walk away from this workshop feeling much more comfortable and more confident about writing. And some of those objectives include to improve your sentence variety using complex and compound structures in your sentences. So, if you're using very simple sentences in your writing, this guide will hopefully help you to incorporate more of a complex sentence structure. Also, to understand and to apply the principles of a paragraph development. So, in our writing, whether it's essays, reports, we have to have paragraphs that are cohesive, logical, and are linked, okay? But before we get to that point, we got to make sure we have a very solid understanding of what needs to go into a paragraph. Also, we want to incorporate our cohesion and coherence in writing. We want to make sure our writing has a flow, is logical, and is easy to understand. Now, using transitions and connectors, these are actual words that will signify a change, a flow, and improve our writing. And of course, we want to always edit. We write, it's great, but we want to make sure we can go back to our writing and edit if necessary to improve because learning is always continuous. And as always, we are focusing on clarity, being concise, and our writing being effective. Okay, so last week we had a class with Kieran, and that was a very basic step-by-step guide. And we're just going to do a quick refresher. If you were not here, it's fine. Can listen on. This will go through the basics of what was covered in last week's clinic. So last week he looked at the purpose of writing, and that is to understand the different reasons why we write. Okay. So some can be for communication, self-expression, or sharing ideas. Does anybody want to unmute themselves or use the chat box and tell me some of the reasons they personally write? Anyone? So when you're also going to the grocery shop, you would sometimes use a grocery list to make sure you get all the correct items. That's another form of writing. Writing doesn't only have to be limited to academic writing as your essays and your assignments. Even writing a quick note on a post-it as a reminder is a form of writing. Okay, so let's look at a basic sentence structure. So a basic sentence structure at its core has two main parts. It's made of a subject, that is who or what the sentence is about. Okay, now this can be a person, an object, an animal, anything relating to what or who the sentence is about. And then your predicate is what is the subject doing or what is happening to it. So at its basic core, all sentences are made of two things, subject and a predicate. Is everyone following along with me? Okay, so refresher on nouns, thank you. So we also covered well, Kieran covers proper nouns, and specific proper nouns are names such as London, Nelson Mandela, and common nouns are general items like a city, a leader, a pen, an object. Would anybody like to give me their own examples of proper nouns? You can unmute or use the chat feature. Okay. Yes. 100%, Malvina. That is a proper noun. It is a name. Well done. Anybody would like to give a common noun a go? Examples of those? Okay. So pencil, that's a common noun. Okay. So I just want to remind you that this session is for you. The more interactive you are, the more fun it's going to be, the more easy to learn and engage with me. It's just going to be make this session much more applicable to you. Okay. So don't hesitate to raise your hand if you want to share anything with me or to use the chat box. Okay, so again, quick refresh on what last week's class was about. So getting started, always when you are writing, I don't know, but this is something I personally struggled with, is I didn't want to start writing because if it was not perfect, I didn't want to put pen to paper or I didn't want to start typing. So for me, it took a long time to get over the fear of not being perfect. Okay. So the main thing that I tell all the students, and I've also told myself this, is just get started. And you can start with pre-planning, you could start with writing your ideas down in a rough way, but whenever you have any writing to do, start. And that's when you can do the next bit, edit later for structure and clarity. But write as much as you can, write as much as you know about the subject, and then later go back and edit. And my key tip for you is always writing is a process. Focus on getting your ideas down first. Whatever idea you may have, for example, if your topic is AI in universities, write down possibly all the positive, negative, and even neutral understandings that you have on it. But always, it's great to write first and edit later. Okay, so that was a look at basically our refresher of last week's class. So today we're going to look at more advanced sentence structures. Last week we dealt with a very basic predicate, a subject and a predicate. Now we're going to go into more detail about it. So now we're going to look at advanced sentence structures and why sentence variety matters. Okay. So imagine reading a type of text where every sentence has the same structure. It gets monotonous, as in that means it sounds the same. Variety in sentence structure helps engage the reader and to express ideas more effectively. Okay, so when you are writing, you want to use a mixture of simple, complex, compound in your writing because the person reading your writing wants to get a full understanding and see that you are fully capable about writing about your focus subject. Okay. So before I go into types of sentences, does anybody want to tell me the types of sentences they know? I did mention a few. I just want to check if anybody can help me with some of the answers. Types of sentences? Okay, there's quite a few of us on. So if anybody would like to hazard a guess, remember this is a learning environment where we take chances, we take a risk, we make a guess, and we learn together. Okay. So basically, as mentioned, the first type is a simple sentence and that has one independent clause. An example, I, subject in that is I, and then the action or the predicate is completed my assignment. So that's one independent clause. The next one is a compound sentence. Okay, I think we touched on this briefly in last week's writing clinic. Those are two independent clauses that are joined by a coordinating conjunction. Like if you use the word and, but, so, or. Okay, so an example of compound sentence is I completed my assignment, comma, and then we are using our conjunction and I revise for my exam. Okay, so that is a type of a simple and a compound sentence. So going over into a complex sentence. Now, this is slightly different because it has one independent clause and one dependent clause. So basically, one part of the sentence is your independent clause that makes sense by itself, and the dependent clause does not make any sense by itself when separated. So, although I was tired, I completed my assignment. So, your dependent clause is although I was tired, comma, and then your independent clause is I completed my assignment. Now, another type of sentence that we have is a compound complex, and that is two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Okay, so an example of that is although I was tired, I completed my assignments. Do you see how we are now joining on the conjunction by using the and? So we are making it a longer, more complex sentence. And I revised for my exam. Okay. How are we feeling about our compound complex sentence? Confident? We need to go over that again?
Yes.
As yes as in confident or yes as in you need me to go over that again?
It's confident, I think.
Perfect. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, Layla. All right, so here I have a little activity for you. And basically, this is a lot of the activities I have here today. I would like you to complete at a later time. So if you have a book or a pen, or even if you're on your phone, just take a simple screenshot of this activity page or of the page that I'm on and keep it for later. Okay. Now, rewrite a simple sentence from your recent assignment as a compound and then a complex sentence, okay? So basically, what we're going to do is take a simple sentence. For example, I completed my assignment. Then we are going to write it in a compound where we are going to use a conjunction as an adjoining word and then a complex sentence. Now, the reason I want you to do this and to practice this is to take your simple writing and to elevate it by using a conjunction and then to push beyond that and focus on writing complex sentences, okay? All right, so for example, the lecture ended. If you don't have any previous assignments that you have completed, you are more than welcome to use this prompt for your simple sentence. The lecture ended, and then you will go on by using a conjunction word and then into a complex form. All right, so here I want you to have a self-reflective question. Think about how comfortable are you with using complex and compound sentences? Do you tend to use short, simple sentences or long, varied ones in your essay? Okay. Now, when I first started writing, I used to use very, very long sentences and they didn't make a lot of sense. I had actually got to a point where I needed to focus on simple sentences, a mixture of compound sentences and complex compound sentences together. So, even if you are at the point where your sentences are very long, using a variety of simple, compound, and complex sentences will enhance your writing. Okay, so you can have a quick activity by yourself. You don't need to share it with me. You can rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, being very confident to not very confident on your ability to use advanced sentence structures. Okay, so you can have a think about that, and I'm going to go to the next slide. Oh, so 1, as in you need more practice. 2, not confident. 3, somewhat confident. 4, confident. And 5, very confident. I'm not sure why the T's at the bottom though. Okay, so we have looked at how to develop a sentence. There's a lot of thought that goes into developing a sentences, and when we have a group of sentences, it's basically a paragraph. and we are going to look at why a paragraph structure matters. Okay, so a well-written paragraph is like a building block of your essay. Without a strong foundation, your ideas can be scattered, making your argument harder to follow. So if you have written lots and lots of paragraphs about your topic or that is based on your assignment brief, and they aren't really well thought out, there's not a lot of research into it, it's going to make for difficult reading and it's going to make for a low grade. Okay, so we want to focus on making sure what we have written is easily understood. So before I get into the parts of a strong paragraph, I want you to have a think about it and let me know in your own words, what do you think will make a strong paragraph? Okay, you can unmute yourself, you can raise your hand, or we can use the chat box to write down your personal ideas about what makes a strong paragraph. Great answer, Malvina, to have a good idea. Fantastic. Does anybody else want to continue? Okay. Exactly what Malvina said. So each paragraph should have a topic sentence, and that means each paragraph should have one main idea that you are presenting or writing about. Okay, so think of it, one paragraph, one topic sentence. So your topic sentence is going to present the main idea of what your paragraph will be focusing on. For example, if your topic sentence is exercise is essential for improving mental health, that is your topic sentence. So it means all your other supporting sentences are going to be focusing on this one topic sentence. Okay. Now, so paragraphs are made of two things. Exactly what Malvina said earlier, to have a good idea. That is your topic sentence. It's your main idea. And then you have supporting sentences. Now, the supporting sentences are very important because they provide evidence, they give you explanations, and they give you examples of that, of what your topic sentence is. They are supporting, almost think of it like they're carrying the weight of your topic sentence. And how to build up on that is studies show that regular exercise releases endorphins, which help reduce symptoms of depression. So I have here my topic sentence, focusing on exercise is essential for improving mental health. And now I'm supporting that sentence by further information. Okay. So when you are writing, think of your topic sentence for each paragraph and then think about your supporting sentences that support your claim of what has been said. So yeah, those studies show that regular exercise releases endorphins, which help reduce symptoms of depression. So now we have our topic sentence, supporting sentence, and then we would need to end off our paragraph. And I think that's very important because sometimes we forget that everything should have a start and an ending. Okay, so we're focusing on ending a paragraph and not ending our writing in totality. So a transition or conclusion is how we would normally end, as in we would normally end with that main topic because we have provided supporting information on it, or we want to transition into something else. Example, if you want to, you started off with the positive of exercise and now you want to go into the negative of it. So you'd use a transition word or transition sentence to signify that your writing is going to take a change in a different direction. Okay. So at its core, your paragraph sentence with conclusion or transition is going to wrap it up. Okay. It's going to either end off your paragraph very nicely or linking to the next idea. And one way we can show transition or links is by using transition words. And our example sentence, therefore. So that is a word that says therefore, it's showing our transition word. Adding exercise to your routine can greatly improve both physical and mental well being. Okay, so that's how we are building our paragraph. So I have an activity for you to do. Of course, I would like you to complete this at a later time when you have some more time available to you, but it's focusing on writing a paragraph about the importance of managing time. Now, this is a prompt. Why is time management important and how can students improve it? So, focusing on finding a topic sentence. Okay, that's what it's going to be focusing on. And then you're supporting sentences about that and ending off with a conclusion or a transition. Okay, so I'm going to have a check. Sorry, I'll just go back, take a screenshot of this if need be, and keep it for later. And then the next slide is going to be a checklist, and I would love to check in with you personally while we are attending this clinic to find out how you feel about your paragraphs. Okay, so when you are going to do your checklist for paragraph writing, also you can take a screenshot of this. It is quite important to remember our paragraphs are important and they have to be linked. So as you start off your paragraph, does it have a clear topic sentence? Okay. Does the supporting sentences provide sufficient explanation or examples? Is there a concluding sentence that wraps up the idea or the transition to the next point? Now, these are your basic paragraph structure. Now, this is going to focus on, is it coherent? Do your ideas flow logically from one to the next? And last point, have I varied my sentence structure to keep the reader engaged? Now, how many of you have thought about this when you were writing your paragraphs previously? You can let me know. You can give me a thumbs up if you have thought about this when writing your paragraphs. Nobody wants. Okay. So to be fair, before I started academic writing, oh great, one thumbs up. I did not know all of this information. So everything that I'm teaching you today is information I have learned over time and I had to incorporate it. So these are all the things that I talk to you about is things I had to teach myself over a period of time. So I didn't know paragraphs had to have a topic sentence. I thought as long as I write enough about it, it should cover it. But once I learned to incorporate this in my writing, it has made my writing so much easier. And I understood what needed to get done, and it has made my academic work a lot better. So I think my lecturers definitely were much more happier once I started incorporating this in. So I'm going to go into the next slide. And oh, sorry, I'm not sure why it's saved this way, but that is the reflective questions there. So when you were done with your paragraph, which is time management, okay, have a think about that. What part of your paragraph was easiest to write? For me, it's still the topic sentence is what I still struggle with sometimes because there's so much of information I want to say. So finding just that one sentence that covers what my paragraph is about is something I still struggle with. So I wonder what part of your paragraph is the easiest. For me, it's always the concluding sentence. Oh, what was the most difficult for me is topic sentence. The concluding sentence for me is always a bit easy because you have already found your topic sentence, you have your supporting sentences, so you just want to end it off quite nicely. And I'm going to put this question out to you. How can better paragraph structure improve your writing at university? Does anybody want to have a go at why they think it will actually improve your writing? I'm just going to hope somebody wants to answer that question for me. Okay. Anybody want to have a go at why they think I've focused on paragraph writing in this session, and why do you think it's actually going to improve your writing? Anyone?
Yes, I want to improve my writing and reading uh, for paragraph, and it's very important for me in especially in class. And I had I had many problem for writing and reading, and uh, that's why I am joining this session.
Have you found this part of the session to be helpful to you?
Yeah, uh, I'm starting just now. That this Monday, and I try my best to understand, mm, to improve my English, my writing and reading, and making paragraphs and assignments, everything.
Thank you, Layla. Rahima, thank you for also using the chat box to type in. So the reason why I focus on paragraph structure is because it's something that we often think is so simple, but there is actually a way about it that we have to write in academia. So if you focus on your main statements, your supporting sentences that provide evidence, example, points, and then you end off with a concluding sentence or a transition sentence, it's going to take your writing to the next level, okay? It's going to help elevate it. So I do hope that this session with focusing on paragraphs has been helpful, okay? So if you want, if you have time, you can look back at previous essays or previous writing you have done, choose a paragraph and then rewrite it to improve its structure based on what you learn. Now, the reason why I always like to focus on previous writing is because you are only in competition with yourself, okay? And to be reflect, well, to make positive changes, you have to go back and see your writing. You have to look at it critically and be like, how can I improve this? So the only way to do that is to take something you've written, incorporate what we have been learning about today, and then rewrite it. So focus on ways you can make changes in your writing, but with small steps always. Okay, so we were focusing on the type of sentences we have: simple, compound, complex. We focus on how to get a paragraph together. And now we are going to look at transitions for flow. But before I go on to using transitions, does anybody in their own words want to tell me now what we need to make to have a powerful paragraph, or what steps we have to take to write a powerful paragraph? I'll start you off. You need a topic sentence. What follows a topic sentence? Good examples. Perfect. So once we have good examples, how will we end that paragraph? There are two ways we can end that paragraph. Conclusion, perfect. And the other, we can either conclude that paragraph or we can start with a T. Conclusion, perfect. Transition. Thank you, Malvina. So we did basically start with a topic sentence. Then we have supporting sentences that have examples, points in them, and evidence. And then our paragraph can end with a conclusion or a transition. Okay, so that was a quick refresher. So now we're going to use transitions. And why transitions matter is because when you have developed your paragraph and you got a great paragraph incorporating all of those things, we want to be able to interlink it to our writing. So transitions are essential for linking ideas smoothly. Okay, focus on that. We want our writing to be flowing, smooth, that the lecturer, when marking our assignments, understands perfectly well what we are saying. Okay, so in order to show understanding, we'll use transition words. So they'll be between our sentences and between our paragraphs. So they make sure it flows naturally and doesn't feel disjointed or abrupt. Okay. So from my personal experience, this is something I had to learn because I had no idea that I had to use transitions in my writing. Like I said previously, all I did was just write as much as I knew about the subject. Didn't think about how it flowed, whether it was clear, whether it made sense. None of that was important to me. I just wanted to write. But now, because we are in an academic setting, we have to make sure our writing is of a great caliber. Okay, so I'm going to give you some types of example transition words. These are not the only types, there are much more, but for the purpose of today, we're just going to look through these transition words. Okay, so the first one is addition. So this is when you're giving extra information. You are adding on to what's being told. So examples of words we can use are furthermore, moreover, in addition. Okay. The next word that we could use to show contrast, and it's normally between two items or that we are comparing. Okay. So example words can be however, on the other hand, although. And if you want to show us cause and effect, words can include therefore, as a result, and consequently. So these are words to show a transition in our writing. There are many more words that we can use. I would advise you, if you want to find out more transition words, to reach out to me and we could talk about that. But in your writing, these are some that you can use. Okay. So I have an interactivity for you. And let's see if I could just magnify this a bit bigger. Okay. Lovely. Okay. So take the following why is the Y then? Take the following disconnected sentences and add a transition to link them. So you're going to add one of these lovely transition words. So the company faced the company faced financial difficulties. It launched a new product line. So you could use any of these contrast words here to add a transition. The company faced financial difficulties. It launched a new product line. And my example sentence includes a however. But you can choose any other words that you want, and it will read as the company faced financial difficulties. However, it launched a new product line to recover. So what it has done with the use of a transition word has taken two simple sentences and joined them together and has given us complex sentence. Okay, so we want to make sure we are focusing on variety in our writing. Okay, let me see if I can make that again. All right, so I want you to think about any other ones that you know that can show transition. Okay, before I go to my next slide. So I got some here in addition, contrast, cause, and effect. But can you think of any other words to show transition?
Teacher, your microphone is off.
You. I just want to share a link with you about other transition words that you could use. Okay, I'm going to put it in the chat box. If you are unable to access the chat box, please reach out to me and I will send you more links. Okay, so those are fantastic examples. Thank you very much. Right, I think we have a few more to go. So I just want to focus on revising. So we have written our sentences, we've done our paragraphs, we've added transitions. Now we want to make sure that we are able to edit and to revise for clarity and flow. I know I mentioned those words a lot, but those are very important. In academia, we want to make sure what we are saying is being said in a very clear and understandable way. Okay. So when you're revising your writing, and I would suggest that you take a screenshot of this. I could also send this PowerPoint to you if you want at the end of this clinic, and you could have a look through if need be. Okay. So with your sentences, are they clear? Okay. Are there any run by or fragments? Sometimes you may start a sentence, not finish it off the best way, and then it may not be very clear when reading it. And always flow of ideas. Do your ideas connect logically? Okay. Is there a start, a middle, and an end towards your writing? And clarity, is the message clear to understand? Do you always revise your work for clarity and flow? Does anyone go over their writing when they are done? How often do you do that? I'll be honest, it was something I never did. I used to write, submit, and wouldn't think about it. It's taken me time to get to the point where I revise. Okay. So, as always, go back to your own writing. Take a paragraph from your recent writing and revise it. Check for clarity, check for flow, and check for your sentence structure. This is a little interactivity, I would say. Always, I like to focus on what I've written to improve what I've written. I can only improve my writing. So it helps for you to go back to check and to see how can I make this better. Okay. Right. Now, this is something I like. If you have a friend, because my friend and I were both, well, my friend and I, we were doing our honors together. and we would look at each other's assignments and peer read it. Okay. I do think it is quite good to use a peer to help provide feedback. It always like helps you to identify issues you may have missed, unclear sentences, your weak transitions, and if it's not that clear. Because sometimes when you have written and you go back and you edit and then you write again, you sort of lose that objectivity. So having a friend who's there to read over your work, whether a colleague, family friend, it helps to get an objective eye over it. So if you are comfortable with sharing your work, I would definitely advise it. Find somebody that you are comfortable with and you value their feedback. I mean, that can also be in form of a lecture. You could take your work to the lecturer and be like, please provide feedback. But it's great. We are a community that wants to help each other. You can also use Kieran and I as an external voice to go over your work if need be. So please reach out to us. We're always ready to help. Okay. If anybody would like to share an answer, what is the most valuable feedback you have received on your writing before? Anyone? Okay. I'll go first. It's slightly a bit uncomfortable to say, but I'll say I remember being told my sentences are too long and too wordy, and I need to be to find a point and to focus on it. And at that time, I was very upset because my writing's great. Um, I was really it really shocked me to the core, and I was like, oh, but every other person has said my writing's fantastic. And this lecturer was like, no, you need to focus on being simple and finding your main point and finding your voice, actually. So that took some time to incorporate that feedback. It wasn't the best at the time that I wanted to hear, but it has definitely helped me to be a better writer. Okay, so now we're going to look at pitfalls. We have done our writing, we have focused on getting there, focus on paragraphs, making sure they're clear, cohesive, have clarity in them. But however, there are some things that we want to look out for. Okay. And some of these pitfalls are, and they're very common amongst all writers, run on sentences. Very guilty of this. So I used to have very long sentences, take these really long sentences and cut them into shorter, clearer sentences. Okay. Sentence fragments. So like, remember, like we covered last week, each sentence is made up of a subject and a predicate. So you're basically looking at who's the person in the sentence and what are they doing. So make sure each sentence, either it's a person or an object, and a clear understanding of what action has been undertaken. Unnecessary complexity. So keep your sentences simple and clear. Weak transitions. Add your transitions where ideas feel disconnected. So it may be like you've gotten to the end of your essay, you read back, you're like, it doesn't flow as much as I thought it would. That's a good time to pull in your transition words. Okay. So I do have a self activity for you to do. Again, make 3 specific writing improvements to your writing based on the checklist. So look out for these things if they are in your writing. Always good to compare. Have a look, be honest with yourself, and to see where you need to focus on. Okay. So, almost at the end, reflect and revise your writing. Why revision matters. Always we want to go over our work, we want to read through it, whether it's about the health of ourselves or a trusted friend or colleague. And it's most critical. And this is the part that's often glossed over because we're so happy we at the end, we have written, we're ready to submit, but we don't take time to revise. Now, this is where we refine our ideas, fix errors, and ensure your argument is presented clearly. Okay. I just finished an assignment, and believe me, I had to revise multiple times. It was not fun. I did not want to rewrite, I think, three, four times, but I had to because each time I've rewritten, it gets better and I found a focus. So I would definitely say start your assignments early so you have enough time to revise and you are able to look over your work at the end without being in a panic to submit. Okay. Definitely revise, start your assignments early. Now, again, this is something I have faced. I faced a lot of trouble with because I used to do some assignments at the last minute and I had no time to check in. I said this earlier, everything I tell you has been something I have been personally guilty of, okay? I understand what it's like when you're working and studying. Some of you have very busy lives. Fortunately, we have to put time aside for those things that are important for us. So, revise your writing, definitely. Get into the practice of revising a paragraph, revising two paragraphs. You don't have to revise all your writing in one go, but just get started. Okay. So we'll skip that. Basically, what I'd like you to take away from this is to set a writing goal for yourself. A writing goal will help you to make actionable change. I know you attending today is a fantastic change. I mean, action. When we write or get into the mindset of saying, I want to do this, it always needs to be followed up by what actions am I going to take? Okay. So I know some of you have expressed that you want to improve your writing, some of you have confidence, but that's great. But now you need to take the actions to follow up on that goal. Okay. So this is where you have to set a realistic goal. And I emphasize realistic because if we place a goal that's too hard to attain, we will give up. So I would suggest a small attainable goal and it changes as you attain it. Okay. So many goals along the way rather than a gigantic goal that is going to take a lot of time and effort and may not be realistic. So set realistic goals, so basically, it can be as small as working on a sentence variety. For example, if you were like me and you use very long sentences, it can be how to incorporate simple, shorter sentences. It can be focusing on your paragraph structure, using more transition words, and even if it's simple as making sure you have enough time to revise your writing before submission. So think about these goals, write them down, give yourself a timeline of how will I attain this? What resources do I have to attain it? Okay. So think about what is my biggest area for improvement and think about what you are going to, oh, sorry, so you have resources like the English support department, example, Kieran now. You have resources like your friends, your families, your colleagues. Think about all the ways you can use these resources around you to achieve your goal. I mean, if you attend every week, that's part of a step towards your goal. So my main takeaway from today is obviously your paragraph structure and how to write that and setting a realistic goal for yourself. Okay. So if you want, I would also say reflect on your writing is just as important as attaining practice for your writing. It is a process, it takes time. It's not just write, 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 submit. Unfortunately, I wish it was that easy. We wouldn't be talking today if it was. But the more you write, revise, and reflect, the stronger your skills will become. Take it from me. I've been there. I've understood the long journey it's taken me, but it is a process. And again, do not be afraid to make mistakes. They're part of learning. Everyone makes mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you are not learning or you are a liar. Okay, everybody has to make mistakes. So I just want to check in. Do you feel more confident in your writing after this workshop? Give me a thumbs up Or you can give me a thumbs down if that's not the case. Okay, thank you. So, for the next steps, okay, I want you to focus on keep improving. Um, writing journey doesn't stop now. Plenty of tools to help you. You could use Grammarly, Hemingway editor, also Purdue OWL. Also, reach out to the English support tutors ourselves. This is myself, Christine. This is my colleague, Kieran. We offer one-to-ones. We can do a group session if you want to come in with a friend or two. We can help with your presentation skills, your assignment skills, general academic skills. Offer these sessions in person and online. Please let us know. We are more than happy to help you, but practice always, okay? And think about small, realistic goals to achieve. And I hope this workshop was beneficial to you. If you would like me to email this writing clinic to you, I know Rahima said she would like it. Please just drop your email address and I will send it out to you. Thank you. Oh, okay.
Hi, teacher. I sent you email
Hmm.
for last 2 days ago, and for booked for my for booked face to face class for help uh, on Wednesday. Mm,
Okay. Do you know which address you sent it to?
it's on your email.